and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke.
Luke, continuing our series on great inventors, this time we're focusing on Thomas Jefferson. Okay, so it's a bit of a smidge, or maybe a little stretch to say that he was an inventor, but he was an innovator. How about
That's
that?
exactly, I think I've watched a couple videos where they said it was more of an innovator than an inventor.
So like he got other people's ideas and he innovated and made them better.
Stolovated.
And made them better.
A new word, stolovated.
Some people sent them their inventions.
They did on purpose.
Like, yo, Tommy J, make this better. This ain't good enough. Make
T-Bone.
It better.
Come on, hook me up.
So we'll get into what he's invented, and people can judge for themselves. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'd like to do a little bit of history on this cat.
You always want to do history.
I feel like some people might not know who he is. They might think, oh, he's the person,
well known.
He's the person on the 20, and that's all they know.
Is that what he's on, the 20? I was trying to remember.
I haven't had cash money in my wallet in like a really long time, so I'm assuming it's the 20.
It's not the 1, and that's all I have.
That's
Jackson.
money.
Jackson is on the 20.
Okay,
I think he's on the 10.
He must be on the 10 or the 5 or the 50. I'm not sure
Lincoln's
what he's on.
The 5, it seems.
Okay. So Thomas Jefferson, and I love how they do his description on. Look at all that money. How they describe him on like the Monticello website. That's where I found a lot of this stuff. So Thomas Jefferson was an American statesman, diplomat, lawyer, architect, philosopher, and founding father who served as the third president of the United States from 1801 to 1809. Could you imagine if your title was James Herzing, diplomat, podcast host, lawyer, architect, philosopher? I mean, how do you get those many titles? Like, how's that possible?
It's like Daenerys, right? The mother of dragons, the queen of the first whatever, all of that. Yeah, that's what Jefferson is.
So I feel like a lot of this stuff is like appointed. Like he wasn't probably a registered architect the way we think of a registered architect. He wasn't like probably
back in the day. It was easier.
You didn't need it. You could just say you were.
I made a building. I'm an architect. Yeah,
it fell down and killed the family, but hey.
Fun fact, he actually had a building collapse and kill a family. No, he didn't.
Okay. He was also the founding father of the University of Virginia, Ducks, which held its first class in 1825. He was intimately involved with the designing of the school's buildings. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the school's buildings and you look at Monticello itself, there's some very similar design elements and structure between the two of them. He was born April 13th, 1743 in Shadwell, Virginia. Didn't go very far. He died he died on the 4th of July, which is crazy. There's another person died on the 4th of July too. I forget who it was. Was it Benjamin Franklin?
John Adams. The two of them both died on 4th of July, 1826, in Monticello, Virginia, resting at home. And have you ever been to Monticello? I have not, but it looks lovely.
So I've been there I think 3 times. So back in the Blue Ridge days, I visited once or twice.
Because this is right by Charlottesville, right?
Like literally, I could ride a bike from Monticello to the Blue Ridge office.
Wow.
So really, really cool. I'd recommend it to anybody to go. We went during COVID and it was kind of shut down. You couldn't go inside. You could walk the grounds, but I imagine that's starting to open up. But what I would like to do before we jump into the inventions is he had a pretty impressive career, I would say. So I mentioned when he was born. He went to William and Mary College in Williamsburg, Virginia. That happened around that would be 1760, I believe. After that, he studied law underneath George Wythe, a prominent Virginia lawyer.
When they didn't have law school.
No, you were like an apprentice. It was like if you wanted to be a lawyer, you worked for a lawyer. You wanted to be an architect, you worked with someone whose buildings didn't collapse. When he turned 21, this is pretty impressive. He inherited 3,000 acres of his father's estate. A few years later, he began clearing the land on the hilltop at Monticello, which in Italian means little mountain.
I thought that was neat.
I thought that was pretty cool. So in what is that? That's probably like 69. He served in Virginia's House of Burgesses, the colonial legislature at the time. Next, I'd say the next thing, he writes the Declaration of Independence. This is pretty, so 1776. He writes the Declaration of Independence and elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. He's then elected in 79 to be the governor of Virginia, so pretty decent life. Tragedy strikes, 82. His wife and a bunch of his kids die, which is bananas, because like back then, kids died left and right from like typhoid and stubbing their toe and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
he's elected to Congress in 83. He begins serving as the U.S. Minister to France in 84. He is appointed the first U.S. Secretary of State by none other than George Washington in 90. He then completes the Louisiana. He elected president, third president of the United States in 1800. Did I say that right? 18, yeah. And then he completes the Louisiana Purchase, pretty big deal.
It was a big deal.
Gets reelected. He retires, goes to Monticello. He's on hard times. He sells stuff. He sells his library for about $24,000. And he leads the efforts to do University of Virginia. And then finally, he dies on July 4th and is buried at Monticello.
Well, you said it. Finally, he dies. He was 83. That's a pretty good run.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
These people had like wooden teeth and they would bleed you if you got sick.
Through the revolution, went over to France a bunch. If you haven't watched Hamilton, people, go check that out. There's lots of Jefferson stuff going on there.
One of the best TV series I ever saw whenever I was borrowing your HBO account was John Adams. And there was a ton of Thomas Jefferson was in that. And I lost your HBO account. I'll need to get that again.
Yeah, see how you are. I thought you didn't watch TV. No screen
time. Not anymore. I haven't in a long time.
Okay. Netflix is cracking down on that password sharing.
Oh, they are.
Not that I ever did that with you, but if I had, then they're cracking down on that
Okay,
stuff.
good to know. So that's like a little brief history. So we can now jump into his inventions or stolventions or stolvator.
You did a great job on the history, by the way. I was impressed. I'll jump into invention numero uno. I don't know where you did your research. I did a lot of mine from, I think it was I can't remember where it was.
Biographies where I found some interesting. Engineering, I think, had a couple.
Did you see the little gingery smiling face that wrote the article?
I did.
Yeah, our buddy Trevor. Good job, Trevor. I messaged him. I was like, I thought you were done writing for them, and he was like, oh, I was. They must have like refurbished it a little bit.
Yeah, that's what he says. That little
that's
rat.
funny. Oh, I know, right? Anyways, the first invention that I wanted to mention was the revolving book stand.
This is revolutionary at the time, James.
So they're talking about this thing, and all I could think of was like one of those magazine racks or something that you see at a newsstand that's like, here's like 10 copies of different magazines, and you rotate it and there's 10 more.
And there's another
like
10.
Greeting cards.
And another 10.
Yeah.
And another 10.
They just don't stop until you
get to the other
do
side.
like 4 turns. Yeah. So something keep in your mind, this was back in the day, right? This was like the 1800s when it was being used. So not super exciting to us, but this was kind of a big deal for someone who had a big juicy brain like he did and had to have lots of books open for like referencing and cross-referencing and figuring stuff out. So it's just really not impressive, but it was constructed out of beautiful, solid walnut. There are some of these still in existence. It was made in like 1810, and it was cube shaped. So it had 5 adjustable rests for you to put books on, 1 on either side of the cube, so 4, and then 1 resting on top of it. So that would be your 5th. And the rests could be folded down to form a cube so that it could more easily be moved around. And there was a place for a central pole, so you could like slap this cube that can hold 5 books on the pole, and then you can stand there like at your standing desk and read your book, and you're like, oh, I remember that being mentioned in one of these other books, and you spin your little book rotating book stand around, and you go to the next one, and you're like, aha, there it is, I knew that.
So the way they explained it on the one website, and I think you and I probably in the same one, like imagine if you could only have one internet browser open at a time. That's what it was like before this. Yeah, that may have been a Trevor thing to say.
Yeah.
Like if you could only have one and you had to close a tab and open up another one, or so if you think about it, it was pretty revolutionary. Multiple tabs inside of the same window. I mean,
yeah, really
pretty impressive.
Fun fact for you, Luke.
Shoot.
He stopped at 5 books on this design because back in the 1800s there were only 5 books. Yeah. That's science, right? That is not true, kids. Don't listen to me. Before we move on with his next stolen invention, innovation, whatever we're going with, let's take a break for this week's word from our sponsor.
I have to assume it's Monticello.
I was thinking maybe the University of Virginia or Virginia University or whatever it is.
No?
No. Couldn't get the paperwork done in time. But we do have shout-outs.
Who do we got?
Number 1, Henry C. From way back in January.
Oh, you're the worst,
I just got
James.
back to Henry. I'm sorry, Henry. Hi, my name is Henry. I live in Ohio, and I really like your podcast. I was wondering if you could do a podcast on skyscrapers and how they are constructed. I've added it to the list.
That's a good one. How do we not cover that yet?
I don't know. So we did one way back in the day about like earthquake proofing them, but nothing else. We just did that. So I think that's
and
a
he's
good
a neighbor, Ohio?
Yeah, he's probably next door. He probably lives next to my mother-in-law, and I don't even know it. Next one, Bryce B. Hi, my name is Bryce B. He even said my name's Bryce B. I think they know we don't use last names. And I'm a huge fan of the podcast. I'm a computer engineering major at Purdue. Really like the computer engineering episode you did. I heard one of you guys talk about giving away stickers. I don't know how you do this or how it works, but here's my P.O. box if you just send them willy-nilly. We do, in fact, just send them willy-nilly.
I mean, willy-nilly is pretty much how we do most everything, I think,
That's
James?
accurate, yes.
It's in our mission statement, willy-nilly.
It is.
I think so.
I actually just sent 41 stickers out, like packets of stickers out last week.
A busy little bee, aren't you?
I was busy. But Bryce, you've been added to the sticker list, so 8 months, 9 months, man, those will be there.
Fingers
so keep
crossed.
an eye out. Good luck with that computer engineering degree at Purdue. That's a good school for comp eng.
James only uses DHL shipping, so it has to go to like the other side of the world first and then come over.
Goodness gracious. If any of you would like some amazing unprofessional engineering stickers, if you want to give us some topics to be covering, if you want to tell Luke, that his hair's looking good, anything like that, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe. We love to hear the reviews. And as always, you can tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering Podcast.
I have one for you, Luke. If you don't want to wait for me to send you stickers, you can go to our unprofessionalengineering.com shop, and there you can purchase stickers. Are they outrageously priced? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But maybe you just can't wait that 8 months for me to send you something. You can go buy one and support your favorite suffering podcast. Go ahead, Luke. What do you think the next invention should be?
My next one is an unintelligent waiter.
That's a nice way to phrase it.
You like that? Well, I'm a nice person. I don't say dumb waiter. It's an unintelligent waiter. So the answer to most of these, and I know everybody's going to call in.
People are
going to write
put
in,
up a fake phone number for people to call.
And they're gonna poo-poo it. That he didn't invent really any of this stuff. What he did was he implemented this in a lot of cases at Monticello, or he improved upon it based off of some other people's input, or they wanted his input on it. When he was the ambassador to France, he saw dumbwaiters everywhere. And if you don't know what a dumbwaiter is, it's essentially like a chute built into the house that has like a little box, and there would be a rope on the top and the bottom, and you could pull food up from the basement or
A food elevator.
pull clothing down. Yeah, food elevator, whatever you want to call it. They're called dumbwaiters. Pretty popular over in France. And when he designed Monticello the second time, because he basically tore it down and then rebuilt it again, and
which is why he had to sell his library, probably.
Exactly. So he had actually 5 dumbwaiters that were actually built into the building, and I think it said 2 of them were specifically for wine bottles.
I was gonna call that out.
There was like it was like hidden, like it looked like just a regular panel on the door, and you would like open it up and you'd knock, and they'd send up a wine bottle, and you'd grab the wine, they'd send it back down. So yeah,
I thought that was kind of at Monticello.
They were not employees, James. Unfortunately, Thomas Jefferson, up until the day he died, owned slaves.
Well, there you go. There's
Yeah.
that. I did see that, like you said, the 5 dumbwaiters there, which is pretty cool. But he also had some that weren't just the give me wine upstairs one because I'm lazy, but there were ones that would go between the kitchen and the dining room, so that the staff would just set the food on like this spring-loaded turning shelf and be like knock knock, and it
So it was
would
more
then
like a
spin it
rotating
around.
thing.
Yeah, so it was like a hole in the wall, and it
Oh.
would rotate, and you'd grab your food, or the other waiters
That's a
would grab
great
the food and set
idea.
it down, and then the dirty dishes, they'd do the same thing. They'd pick them up, set them there, and then spin them back into the kitchen, which is cool.
How come houses nowadays don't do cool stuff like
Right?
this? Like you don't have laundry chutes in homes anymore, like
No,
in
you
Home
don't.
Alone when he dropped watch our Home Alone episode when he dropped
Oh,
the
yeah.
iron down and hit Marv on the head. Like they don't do these. Like how cool would that be if you had a dumbwaiter in your house?
I would be super excited. I am my wife's dumbwaiter, so
I would run downstairs, load the dumbwaiter up, take it up, run upstairs, and just to pull it off of the dumbwaiter.
that might get old quick.
Yeah.
One fun fact about the dumbwaiter, Luke: Jefferson used a similar model at the White House during his presidency that he is said to have designed himself. So that's kind of interesting. Next invention that I have that I want
do
to
you got?
talk about is the wheel cipher. Did you see this one?
Mm-hmm.
So this is like some secret agent stuff, right? This is like 007.
No. You know what this is? This is the Da Vinci Code. This is
It is
Tom
Da Vinci
Hanks.
Code.
It's exactly what it is.
What's that? Some Daniel Brown? Daniel Brown? Is
Dave
that it,
Brown,
the author?
Dan Brown,
There's
something
someone
like that.
Brown and Tom Hanks mostly. Yes. A wheel cipher was created to make encoded messages and encoding messages easier. Who wants to deal with the hassle of encoding a
Mhm.
message? Not me. So basically think of a bunch of discs, each one with
36
letters
of
of
them.
the alphabet on it. A bunch does mean 36, in fact. Yep. And there's a rod bloop, stuck through all of these. Basically, you mix them all up, and that
Mhm.
creates a code for you to follow. So if somebody else had this wheel cipher sitting next to them, they would know how to align their discs and so on to, figure out what this code says. And it makes it really easy to decipher and to create different codes. If you haven't, we actually did an entire episode on codes. I don't remember what it was called.
Did we do the Enigma machine?
Well, I think we talked about the Enigma machine, but we talked about some other stuff as well. This was a Luke idea. I think you and your daughter had just recently done something with
maybe.
them for school. What's weird is it doesn't look like Jefferson ever really used this invention,
Mhm.
but it did pop up again as the M94 in 1922 and was used during the World Wars. Oh, cryptology. That's what it was called. Check out our
There
episode
you
on
go.
cryptology. And so that's that, the wheel cipher.
You want my next one?
Yeah, I do.
So this one is, so I've seen, I saw the dumbwaiters, I saw the revolving book stand, and I saw this one. I didn't see the wheel cipher when I went to Monticello. I saw the great clock.
Ooh, I
So-
think this is neat.
This one's really interesting. So the great clock, on the exterior of Monticello, you can see a single hand that just does the hours. And the reason is, this is a farm, and knowing what time of day it is just based off of the hour was good enough. You didn't need to know like the minutes and seconds. But on the inside, so this is all one clock, exterior face and then an interior face, it had a minute and a second hand, so you could know the time down to the second. And then the coolest thing, if you look to the left and to the right on the walls, the day of the weeks were listed. And the clock was driven by gravity. There were two, I'll say, chains that went horizontal, and then there was a pulley, I'm guessing, and then they came vertical, and there were weighted, look like cannonballs essentially.
Yeah, like big metal balls.
And what would happen is the gravity would just pull it down slowly. So you not only could you see the day of the week by where the level was on the left or the right, but that gravity motion would actually drive all of the internals of the clock. And then at the end of the week, you just had to reset it, pull everything down, start back up again on Sunday, and then have the clock run again.
So a couple things. I heard that it also triggered a gong that could be heard multiple miles away, but I don't know how that would work.
I don't remember hearing the clock.
I'm gonna say Trevor said it and it's a lie, so we'll blame him. I heard this, but I don't know if it's true. But then I'm also wondering, like, you will go and reset it every week. How does that work? So now are you just, it's actually 8:03, but you say it's 8 o'clock? Like, it just doesn't feel accurate to me. Eventually, you just lose all your time.
No. Well, my guess is what they would do is they'd probably have to set it to like a sundial. So you'd probably have to use a sundial to know like the exact like time of day, like noon. And
That
then
makes sense.
at that really specific time, you could reset the clock. Otherwise, you could be like 20 minutes, a half an hour off one way
that's
or
what I'm
another, I
saying.
imagine. So,
Well, there you go. This
I
is
mean-
why you're the problem solver here. Luke.
they weren't using Microsoft Outlook to keep track of their schedule.
Thank goodness, because my clock on my computer is always wrong.
Which is
So,
weird.
it is
I don't
so
know how
weird,
that
isn't it?
happens. It's a computer.
Yeah, you'd think. Anyways, before we go any further with these inventions, why don't we take a break for this week's Luke's rant?
So my rant is going to be all about, I'll say, Monticello. So if you get a chance, you definitely, and this isn't a rant. This is a, I'll say a little bit of a rant. If you get a chance, check it out. It is in Charlottesville, Virginia. It's about 20 minutes from University of Virginia. It's Monticello. You can actually browse the grounds for free. I've been there multiple times on the grounds, actually, probably like 4 or 5 times on the grounds, but actually doing the tour, they have a library, they have a gift shop, they have all this really cool stuff there. But the thing that bothered me the most, we went during the pandemic, and literally everything was closed, including the bathrooms. So when we got there, I think I ended up peeing in the woods when we were walking around the
Not
grounds.
supposed to say stuff.
I don't think I'm supposed. Yeah, but you know what? I wasn't getting ready to get in my car and go drive to the Burger King, 10 minutes away. It was one of those kind of urgent matters that needed to be taken care of. But
That's
so
fair.
so this is really more like go check out Monticello. It's great history. There's some really interesting things to see there. The grounds are beautiful. There's a huge garden. Make sure you go during spring or fall time would be a really great time to go. And also UVA in Charlottesville is a beautiful town. My wife and I always talk about retiring there at some point. So
Oh, that's cute. I'm told
Yeah.
it's a great town.
yeah,
For
it's-
anyone that's a University of Virginia graduate or attendee right now, let me know if this is true. I'm told that Virginia students, they think that UVA, is that it? Is like Ivy League. And then everyone around them's like, yeah, it's not. Thanks. But I'm told they're real snooty jerks. So if you went there and you're a snooty jerk, write in and let me know, because that's the rumor. And I want to clear it up if that's not the case.
okay.
There we go. How about that?
What do you got next, James?
The Macaroni Machine.
This one completely threw me. This one I did not. All the other ones I kind of had a clue on. This one came from out of left field for sure.
Out of left field for sure. February of 1789, William Billy Short wrote to Tommy Jefferson and said, at Jefferson's request, and he said, yo, I procured that mold for making macaroni in Naples that you wanted. And then forwarded it to his mentor in Paris. So the mold itself probably didn't reach Paris until Jefferson had already left and made his way back to America, but it was shipped over to Philadelphia in 1790. So it took him years to get this mold for macaroni. And anywho, we know that Jefferson didn't have it did have it in the United States eventually, and that it was part of his like packing list from Philadelphia to Monticello. But there's a letter from Jefferson. I'm guessing you probably even saw this when you were at Monticello, Luke, that said, the best macaroni in Italy is made with a particular sort of flour called semola, I think.
Semolina is what I thought it was.
But I think that's what it is, but it's said differently in the letter in Naples. And it goes on to talk about the different flours that are used in all of the different shops around Italy, and the process of turning the flour into dough, and then how to turn it into macaroni. And then it goes through and discusses how he wants to use this mold to create this automated, almost like you crank it and make the macaronis automatically. As they pop through the mold, they get chopped off, and then you have macaroni noodles. So this is like a less manual production, like the screw is turned by a lever, inserted into a hole. There's this whole diagram of what this automated, more automated macaroni machine is going to look like. And then it shows how you chop it and get the perfect macaroni every time.
Have you ever made, go ahead.
What's more important is that there's a recipe for macaroni in Jefferson's own handwriting that's still out there. And I wanted to share this with everyone.
Okay, what is it?
6 eggs, yolks and whites, 2 wine glasses of milk, because that's how you measure milk, is in wine glasses.
Milk?
2 pounds of flour, a little salt, work them together without water and very well. Roll them with a roller to a paper thickness. Cut it into small pieces, which roll again with the hand into long slips, and then cut them to proper length. Put them in warm water, a quarter of an hour, drain them, dress them as macaroni. And if they're intended for soup, they're to be put into the soup, not in the warm water. Boom. That's not how I make pasta.
No. So you've made homemade pasta before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Plenty
of
times.
A lot?
Yeah.
Often. I've only done it a handful of times. Milk. Have you ever put milk in your pasta?
No, I haven't.
I've done the egg and water and salt and like that sort of stuff, but never.
Yeah. I've never done milk. I think it's always egg, flour, salt, and that's all I use.
Okay. Fun fact: the length of time it took for that dye to get from Italy to Monticello is the same amount of time it takes for our listeners to get stickers. I've been holding on to that since you told that story.
So accurate. If it wasn't so accurate, Luke, I would be a little hurt.
All right.
Don't worry. I'm going to send the sticker sending responsibility over to you moving forward.
And I'll give you the video producing and audio producing responsibilities. All righty. The next one I got is the Polygraph. And this is not the Polygraph like lie detector.
Yeah, I was so disappointed.
I thought it was like the Polygraph. So, and again, he did not invent this. Someone by the name of, what was this cat's name? John Hawkins.
John Hawkins.
Yeah, John Hawkins. And what he did was, and it's poly, many, graph, right? So essentially, imagine if you were holding a singular pen and there was an armature that was connected to the pen, and then that was connected to other armatures and linkages that then would have 2 or 3 or 4 different pens attached to them. So when you moved yours an inch, it would move the 3 all at the same time, the exact same. So you could actually write one letter and it would reproduce it. This was like before the printing press kind of thing, or you wanted a handwritten. When was the printing press? I'm not sure. I think the printing press was around, so I'm not sure why they just wouldn't use a printing press. But essentially, it was a whole bunch of linkages that would allow you to handwrite one letter and get 2 to 3 or 4 versions of this. Again, he didn't invent this, but it was sent to him, and he actually made some recommendations and some changes and adjustments so that it would work a little bit better. So no, it was not the Polygraph. Just to keep that in mind.
1436 was the printing press, Luke.
Okay.
Check out our episode on the printing press.
I'm slightly off then.
Just a couple days off, maybe. Yeah. I thought that was a weird one too. Like, why wouldn't you just use a printing press? Or maybe you want it to look handwritten, or maybe you don't need the investment and the cost of a printing press, I don't know, but there's probably
the other thing too it said it could do is it could increase or decrease the size of something. So you
I
could
thought
write
that
small,
was the big key. Yeah,
and it would amplify or reduce the size of what
that's
you were
right.
doing.
Especially for like architectural drawings
Yeah.
and things like that.
It was listed as a draftsman's tool.
That's right.
Spelt the English way, DRAFTSMAN.
I wish they knew English. That really bothers me. No.
Oh,
I had
goodness.
one more that I wanted to talk about.
What do you got?
And that's the plow, or more specifically, the Moldboard for
This is for hills or
plow of
something,
least
right?
resistance. Yeah, it was very strange. So during his tenure as Minister of France, Jeffy Jeffs observed European plow designs and found them to be pretty crappy. That's the technical term.
I think so.
So he recorded his plans to improve the plow by redesigning its moldboard. And so the moldboard is like the wooden part of the plow that lifts up and turns over like the sod or the dirt or whatever it is that you're working with that's being cut by the iron part. So by 1794, Jefferson had put his plans into action at Monticello and had a plow fitted with a wooden moldboard of his design, and basically said that this thing has revolutionized farming and tilling the soil. So in addition to offering less resistance as it was pulled through the soil, the moldboard had another advantage. It could be made by the coarsest workmen by a process so exact that its form shall never be varied, blah, blah, blah. So basically, it was really super easy to reproduce. So even though it was solving a big problem and making things really easy, you could reproduce it a whole bunch of times with the same level of consistency and get the same results. So
interesting.
Kind of like, not mass production, but something along those lines. Better quality control.
Gotcha.
And that was about it.
Fun fact, and this is more like, this is kind of, I guess, engineering, more chemistry. He was into brewing, so he didn't invent brewing, but apparently most people brewed their own beer. When you visit Monticello, you can see the beer brewing recipe that he used for the beer that was made at Monticello.
Did it include milk as well?
It did not include milk, but I have some more on that. But essentially, he worked with some other folks and basically worked on improving different brewing processes. The folks over at Yards Brewing have recreated Thomas Jefferson's own recipe, which employs honey, rye, and wheat, and it is brewed in the same manner of the beer brewed at Monticello in Jefferson's time. It's 8% ABV, which I think is pretty strong beer, if I recall.
That does sound not low.
Yeah, it's considered a strong golden ale, and it's made from flaked oats, rye, wheat, local honey from a fruit wood orchard, and it's available year-round from Yards Brewing if you're ever interested, and you're of legal age.
Yards Brewing should have been sponsoring us. Why didn't we know? They have a brawler beer, and I like that one. But
okay.
It's only 4.2% because I'm a little guy.
You are a little guy. Petite.
Petite. He worked on Virginia's bill for establishing religious freedom. He drafted this up in 1777. Then in January of 1786, the bill was actually introduced with support of his boy, James Madison. So that was something. I have a few fun facts. Do you have anything else you want to
That's all I got. Let me see what you got.
I guess if you've seen Hamilton, you probably know a lot of these. Served as the U.S. Minister to France. He wanted all children to have access to education. In his notes on the state of Virginia, Jefferson states that all children should learn some art, trade, or business, but first they should attend public school for a minimum of 3 years. So was really pushing that.
I'm covered.
There you go. Just barely. He supported the French Revolution, which is kind of interesting, even though America didn't necessarily. He was an early archaeologist. This is so weird. He had the bones of a mastodon, so an animal with 40 million years ago. It looked like a big old elephant, right? He had those bones sent to him at the White House, and he had the bones scattered across the floor, and he was trying to put it together like we would Legos or something.
That's pretty cool.
Building the skeleton. Yeah, it's super neat. He wanted slaves to receive an education as well. He loved vanilla ice cream, which is really boring. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh, something salted caramel, anything.
That's fair. I'm chocolate with peanut butter. And he kept pet mockingbirds. He loved their singing and often had at least 4 mockingbirds at a time. And his favorite bird was named Dick.
Interesting.
So that's that. That's all my fun facts about Jefferson.
That's all I got.
All you got? All right. Well, hopefully you all learned more than you ever wanted to know about Thomas Jefferson and his inventions. If you have anything that he invented that we didn't talk about, go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
see ya.